It is common knowledge that millions of long-term smokers have developed diseases that have caused them to die early. It is also well understood that these diseases are caused almost exclusively from the products of combustion. For every death caused by smoking, 20 smokers are suffering with a smoking-related disease. Vapor products like electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes do not contain tobacco, do not combust any material, and so do not produce the smoke that causes smoking-related disease. When a person draws on the mouthpiece, a sensor detects airflow that activates a battery-powered heating element to heat a solution so that it evaporates. Heating this solution creates a vapor that the user inhales. Vapor products are an alternative, low-risk product that many smokers find useful for a number of reasons. Many people choose to use them exclusively instead of smoking, while others find themselves smoking far fewer cigarettes. They've become very popular among smokers as pleasurable, safer alternatives to smoking cigarettes. And evidence shows that vapor products can be effective in helping people to quit smoking completely. How is this good for the population? As a society, we do things in general to help people live healthier lives, and vaping is one of those things. Best estimates suggest that e-cigarettes are at least 95% less harmful than regular cigarettes. This is because when a person switches from smoking cigarettes to vaping an e-cigarette, that person gets a clean source of satisfying nicotine without exposure to the toxic smoke that causes disease and early death. Most of the chemicals that cause smoking-related diseases are absent from e-cigarette vapor, and those that are present at levels that pose limited harm to health. Smokers can therefore dramatically improve their life expectancy and health quality by switching to a smoke-free source of nicotine, such as vapor products. Additionally, there are no known harms to bystanders from inhaling secondhand vapor. Isn't nicotine dangerous? Nicotine use can raise your heart rate and blood pressure, but there is zero evidence that nicotine causes cancer. There is plenty of evidence that smoking does cause cancer due to the byproducts of combustion. In e-cigarette aerosol, these byproducts are either non-existent or are present in amounts well below levels that are known to cause harm to humans. Isn't nicotine addictive? Nicotine replacement therapy, or NRT, is used daily by millions in the form of nicotine patches and gums. 5-year studies by the FDA on nicotine replacement therapies showed no harmful effects. Those results were convincing enough that the FDA changed its guidance on NRT use such that it can be used indefinitely and was approved to be used concurrent with smoking in quit attempts. E-cigarettes are a less risky way to enjoy smoking-related behaviors that are also leading people away from smoking combusted cigarettes. Millions of people around the world have been successful in quitting smoking completely since they started using vapor products, even if they didn't intend to quit smoking when they started using the vapor product. Even when consumers alternate between electronic cigarettes and regular tobacco cigarettes, studies show these people typically smoke far fewer cigarettes each day as a result of using an e-cigarette, and that they gradually cut down on their cigarette consumption more and more over time as they get used to using and enjoying their e-cigarette instead. But it is always important to remember that vapor products like e-cigarettes are less risky alternatives to the death and disease caused by combusted cigarettes.
How to choose your e-liquid. With literally thousands of different e-liquids available, it can be overwhelming to try and find the ones for you. First off, what is e-liquid made of? E-liquid is typically comprised of 4 ingredients: propylene glycol, or PG, vegetable glycerin, or VG, natural and artificial flavors, and sometimes but not always, nicotine. Here are the main topics we're going to discuss to help you decide what e-liquid is best for you: the ratio of propylene glycol to vegetable glycerin, the amount of nicotine in an e-liquid, and the flavors that are available. The base of any e-liquid is comprised of VG and PG. The ratio of VG to PG is often displayed on bottles of e-liquid like this. An e-liquid with a higher PG content will typically have a more powerful throat hit. That is, the feeling in your throat and lungs typically associated with inhaling a traditional cigarette. PG also vaporizes at a little bit of a lower temperature and is considered by many to deliver more flavor. An e-liquid with a higher VG content is smoother and produces much less of a throat hit. Also, it produces more vapor, making larger clouds, which can be fun. The nicotine strength of an e-liquid is sometimes shown in percentages, but it's typically shown in milligrams per milliliter like this. The nicotine content also affects the throat hit discussed earlier. The higher the nicotine content, the more powerful the throat hit. The most commonly available strengths are 0 milligrams, 3 milligrams, 6 milligrams, 12 milligrams, and 18 milligrams. A single traditional cigarette contains somewhere from 8 milligrams to 20 milligrams of nicotine, but your body only absorbs about 1 milligram of that. The amount of nicotine you get while vaping greatly depends on how much vapor your device is producing. As a general rule, the smaller the device, the less vapor it's going to produce. For instance, if you're vaping using a cig-alike or a similar small device, 12 milligrams is probably fine. However, if you're vaping using a larger device like a box mod, 6 milligrams or even 3 milligrams might be a better fit. The important thing is to adjust accordingly to the strength that feels right for you. Flavors. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different flavors available. Really, the only way to figure out what flavor is best for you is to just try them and see which ones you like best. Thanks for watching.
That stale, musty, smoked-out taste in your mouth.
Cigarette hangover.
That tight, dry, uncomfortable feeling in your throat.
Cigarette hangover.
That's what takes the joy out of smoking. And when that happens to you, it's time to switch.
See how mild, how flavorful, how enjoyable a cigarette can be.
Smokers use e-cigarettes as an alternative to tobacco. And public health experts say they are 95% less harmful than smoking. But how do they know that? Well, for starters, we know that tobacco smoke contains more than 7,000 chemicals and 79 carcinogens, and e-cigarettes don't contain tobacco. Which means that most of the chemicals present in tobacco smoke are simply absent or not detectable in e-cigarette vapor. And for the few chemicals that are present, there is an enormous difference compared to tobacco cigarettes. In fact, e-cigarette vapor contains no carbon monoxide, 98% less metals, 98% less carbonyls, 98% less tobacco-specific nitrosamines, 98% less volatile organic compounds, and 98 to 99% less polyaromatics. In vitro studies conducted in test tubes have shown e-cigarette vapor is over 98% less toxic to cells than conventional cigarette smoke. Similar findings from other studies have led several leading health authorities to estimate that vaping is 95% less harmful than smoking. And in 2012, sales of e-cigarettes overtook sales of nicotine replacement therapies. That's because, unlike nicotine gum and patches, e-cigarettes also give people a very similar experience to smoking, which is why millions of smokers are choosing to vape. In the US, a study found that e-cigarettes were also the most popular tool for smokers who wanted to quit tobacco. And another study, funded by a leading cancer research organization, found that smokers who use e-cigarettes are 60% more likely to quit compared to using over-the-counter products or willpower alone. That means millions of smokers worldwide are benefiting from using e-cigarettes to reduce or cease their consumption of tobacco.
Can you vape without nicotine? Yes, it is very common for people to use e-cigarettes, e-cigars, and vaporizers with e-liquid that contains zero nicotine. Who vapes without nicotine? Nicotine-free vapors usually fall into two categories: people who are interested in a change or stepping down their use of nicotine, and people who do not use nicotine but simply enjoy the experience of vaping. Why do people who have never smoked cigarettes vape? Vaping has a relaxing effect. The deep inhale and exhale, the flavor, the blowing of O's tricks, and the social aspects of hanging out without needing to have a cigarette, or they can enjoy a celebratory moment with an e-cigar. More often, zero nicotine vaping is often the result of a successful transition to using vaporizers and decreasing the body's dependence on nicotine. Because e-liquid is offered at a range of nicotine levels, it makes it easy to gradually reduce the level of nicotine, allowing vapors to eventually lower the level down to zero. There are almost an infinite number of different flavors and flavor combinations to try, or just the traditional cigarette flavor. What's great about vaping is that there are so many possibilities that you do not have with regular smokable tobacco. You can get a bunch of different flavors and use as little or as much nicotine as you need. For more information on how to choose your perfect nicotine level, click here.